live streaming. We have family and friends all the way across the country, from California to Kansas to the Northeast, and some cousins down in Chile and Mexico as well. So this program is kind of an interesting journey that we have put together. It's we're a little bit before Valentine's Day, so we thought having a romantic musical journey would be appropriate for this time. As we put the repertoire together, we discovered that each piece has its own character, it has its own emotional expression, and over time it started to evolve into a storyline. And so in your program you will notice that there are 4 parts to the program. We'll start out with some dancing, and then we'll do some romancing, and then we'll journey, and then we're going to celebrate life and love. For us as an ensemble, all 5 of us, it has been an incredible musical journey as well. We have had to take basic melodic lines and decide who's going to play them, who's going to play what instruments, who is going to play harmonies and the accompaniment. We've made all of these decisions collaboratively and as individuals in order for us to be able to really express the meaning of the music as we feel it. We're going to start out with a little bit of dancing. I'm going to play a Baroque flute, or it's also called a traverso, or a one-key flute. This flute was the flute of the 18th century. And of course mine is not an 18th century instrument, or we'd have armed guards around me. We will play this first set as a set, and we won't pause in between. Okay?
I might join the group for this concert, I had to decide what instruments to bring along. And so I consulted with Professor Cook from our music history department for some advice, given that so much of the music is from the 16th, 17th, and 18th centuries. But I'll say in her defense that she's not responsible for any mishaps that I handled here. But it was really interesting to look and see that the instruments that were used at that time were simple drums. So I brought one of my most simple drums. They would call it a tabor at that time, but this is similar. It's a wooden shell with this natural calfskin head. Rattles were common. I have various cocoa pot rattles. Bells were commonly used. My favorite rattles, which you'll hear later, are the seed pod rattles. And of course, when I thought of Spanish music, I thought of castanets. And clappers were commonly used in that time. The cajon is a newer addition to South American music, particularly initiating in Peru, but I couldn't resist bringing it along. It fit perfectly. These are Brazilian caxishi, basket rattles. And lastly, there are lots of frame drums. I have 5 here and one that I'll play later. And they're the most commonly used instrument, not just from the 16th century, but long before that. And in fact, 3 of them are from Spain, so I thought that was particularly appropriate. And I've never played them before, so they've been sitting on my shelf for a really long time. And I was so excited to get a chance to use them. So I hope you enjoy the colors that we chose together, like what instruments we thought might work on each piece. And so we hope you're enjoying this.
We're going to play a piece now that is a set of 3 pieces strung together. It's by a man named Ribayaz. He was a 16th century harpist, actually 17th century harpist. He gathered up these pieces. Many of them are basic templates, a set of chord changes you can play. And Dee selected 3 of them and put them together into one set for us. There's an Espanoletas and 2 Xacaras. So the name of the book translated to The Light of the North came out in 1660, and it's still a rich source of grounds and other music from that time.
This harp actually originated in the early 1600s. At that point in time, we started having a lot of chromaticism and accidentals in our music, and the harps had to kind of keep up with that. So there was an invention called a hook harp, and they kind of put these hooks on all of the strings, and the player had to pull them up in order to play. Obviously, that didn't last very long. And so this harp is actually a modern rendition of the hook harp. These are levers. There's a lever for each string which pulls the pitch up a semitone or a half step. And so you'll see me levering a lot because each piece has a different key and accidentals. We're going to move on to romancing. You'll notice a big difference between this music and the dance music that you just heard. For us, every piece in this set is very romantic. Eric and I are going to play the first two as a duet with a little help from Ben on the second one. And we hope you enjoy. After I change this.
thing is a parlor guitar. I'm sure all of you have seen modern day guitars, modern instruments. This is different. This is the kind of guitar that would have been played by virtuosi in the early part of the 19th century, like Fernando Sor, Mauro Giuliani. Compared to a modern instrument, it's shorter, it's narrower, also big sound hole still. It's tuned just like a guitar, played like a guitar. Has, I think, a pretty impressively loud voice for a small instrument as it is. I'm playing this replica of an instrument by Lacotte because I want to keep my early music creds.
16 stars. And we felt that was fitting to have the last piece of this romancing section be gazing at the stars. We'll come back, I promise.
This is an arch lute. Some of you may know what the lute was. A very popular instrument from about 1500 to about 1750. Built similar to this, but had a peg box bent back at almost a 90-degree angle. In the late 16th century, the Italians took off that peg box, put on a neck extension with a second peg box, set of pegs, and set of strings, so that they could play bass notes. That was the emphasis of music at the time, so they adapted the instrument. This is a 21st century adaptation.
So, believe it or not, it's not the first time I've played a concert where the repertoire spanned almost 500 years. It doesn't happen often for percussionists. Actually, the first time I did that, Janine and my wife and I played a concert when we were in school. We played a piece by John Dowland, along with some more contemporary percussion music. So when Dee invited me to play a couple solo pieces, I said, well, my medieval percussion repertoire is pretty thin. I don't have anything that quite fits that. But I had some pieces which are, in a sense, originate from Brazil. They do use some instruments from Latin America. We have, again, some Brazilian caxixe, and of course, Cuban bongos. We have Brazilian tamborim, and agogo bells, and a Spanish frame drum. The rest are from other places, Africa, the Middle East, and America. But for me, the connection was more than the instruments. It was about the fact that there's a system of teaching rhythm and perceiving rhythm called Musica, which was developed in Brazil and taught to us by one of our percussion teachers, Rogério Bocato. And I have a piece that I wrote for Rogério as an assignment, homework assignment, and then later I'll play a piece that one of my students, Ned Smith, wrote. And both pieces are, in a sense, they're a journey. They each have a relatively simple theme, but the theme is viewed through different lenses, mostly through ostinati that are played simultaneously. And as you see in the program notes, sometimes my piece, which is next, the ostinato is in the feet, it could be in the hands, it could be in the voice, it just spreads around, but the theme, you'll hear it many times. And so hopefully each time I present the theme, you can see that it's going through a journey, which becomes gradually more and more dense, more a thicker texture. And I was thinking on my way in today that happens a little bit in the Ortiz pieces as I hear them, that we're going to feature Neil shortly, in that the pieces, as Neil plays through, they become more dense and more thicker textures and more contrapuntal. And also, many of the pieces we play, they might be written with 6/8 notes per bar, but they can be heard and felt in 6/8 or in 3/4. That's a good example of what these pieces are about that I'm going to present to you. This one is called Kenpo Interlude, only because as a busy college teacher, I wrote it while my son was in karate lessons. And I was waiting in the car, and you know what can you practice in the car? You can practice shakers, you can practice with a little drum. So this is for Benjamin. Ta 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 di ta ka ta 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 ki ta ka ta di ta ki ta ta ki ta 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 ki ta ta ki ta ki ta ta di ta 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 ki ta ta di ta ka ta ta ki ta ta di ta ki ta ta ki ta 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 ki ta ta ki ta ki ta di ta.
one instrument. This is it. This is a bass viola da gamba. I feel like I'm treating it like multiple instruments today in the program. When we were putting this together, it was interesting because I was, saying, oh, well, let's see what we can do with this instrument. And as you've seen so far, it's ended up carrying a melody, but also I've been doing a lot of sort of bass line playing, trying to sort of treat it like a bass. It's been a lot of fun. It's got quite a range, this instrument, as you can hear. This is, a lot of gambas were 5, 6 strings. This one is fitted with a low 7th A, so that allows me to really sort of dig in and offer this low supporting end. What's interesting from my background, which is not in viola da gamba playing, but rather in cello playing, is when Dee and Eric approached me, I guess almost a decade ago now, and asked me if I would enjoy playing this instrument that they had. I said, of course. I'm a cellist. How different can it be? What I've come to learn is quite. The answer is quite. This is a fretted instrument, like a lot of the instruments that Eric plays. These are frets of tied-on little pieces of gut string. They are adjustable, they're movable. All of the strings are gut. They are prone to changes based on heat, on humidity, cold, and that kind of thing. So that was, a far cry and a much different challenge from my steel strung cello. But it's been a delight to learn this, and also just to be able to play it in different ways. The next few pieces are written by Diego Ortiz. They come from a document, basically Trote Tarapaqueño, I think. It's a document on how to play viola da gamba, how to embellish, how lines will start somewhat simple and sort of curve off and really kind of extrapolate on an idea. And it's been a great work in progress over these past almost 10 years. I am going to ask for a moment just to retune because the strings are sensitive. So.
While he's retuning, I'll introduce you to this little guy. This is a Baroque guitar. Eric, do you want to pick that up and tell everybody about the Baroque guitar?
Okay, so sure. Hold it up. Here's my Primera guitar, 19th century instrument. Essentially the same as what they play today. That instrument has more strings but fewer notes because it's strung in pairs, like a 12-string guitar or mandolin. Each pair is called a chorus, like a lute. It has a rose in it instead of a sound hole, but it does the same thing. It also has a 21st century adaptation on it that she's not going to use. She's going to play it acoustically.
Oh, that thing.
Yeah, that thing. She has got frets tied around the neck on that, just like the flutes had and have today. It has 5 courses. A guitar has 6 strings. It's tuned like a guitar, except a couple of differences. One is there's no 6th string, there's no low E. And the next difference is the 5th string, the A, should be an octave lower than a Q here. It's a whole step higher than the 3rd string. What this means is the notes are crammed together pitch-wise. There's no bass on this instrument. That's why they need me.
warned that this is the loudest piece in the concert. So I'll warn you too. It's very short, and unlike the theme for my piece, which is quite long and on meter, this theme you'll hear in the first 2 seconds of the piece. And then you'll get to hopefully explore the piece through different ostinati, which are played by the feet.
Well, for obvious reasons, I could not sit in the back for all that. So, I was a student of Spanish song, and I feel like I could spend 5 lifetimes just in Spain. My journey with Spanish song began in 2007 when I traveled to Granada for a program called Interpretation of Spanish Song with 50 artists from all over the world. And these Lorca songs in particular provided a background to each day. You could always hear a singer rehearsing a song by Manuel de Falla, and you could always hear a guitarist playing these Lorca. We know Lorca for his writing as a poet and a playwright, but he was a musician first, and once he met Falla, a musical anthropologist. They inspired one another as they collected and arranged many Spanish folk songs. Lorca famously disliked the inability of musical notation to capture the characteristic, nuanced, microtonal, and rhythmic complexities of this music. And that's been the most fun journey for us in this set, to translate what's on the page to something living and breathing the spirit of Spanish folk music. The first song you'll hear is Anda Jaleo, which means come on, make a commotion, and it was often performed by Lobo, and one of his best remembered pieces. In this folk version, it tells the tale of a hunter tracking down his beloved who's been taken, and speaks to the conflict and upset of shooting a dove, her, if she has been unfaithful. And it also became a powerful resistance song during the Spanish Civil War. The second song is a lullaby-like folk song about my falling in love with the man who has the spotted mule. And the third song, Sevillanas of the 18th century, takes its name from a fast triple-meter major mode couples dance from Seville. It celebrates the people of Seville and the neighborhoods surrounding Seville of Triana and La Macarena. Finally, La Tarara is an old children's song, which has many regional variants. La Tarara is a free-spirited dancing woman with a nomadic soul who wears crazy clothes and bells and frills. And it's so special to include this one today because normally these songs are performed with just guitar or just piano. So having an ensemble with percussion, we can really bring La Tarara to life. I hope you enjoy.
Tiro
thank all of you for being here. We really have enjoyed playing for you and sharing this music. I want to thank Ben and Michelle just for being such great colleagues and having given us such a wonderful musical journey in putting this piece together. Also, so many people, thanks to the live stream folks and Leonard and all of the ops folks, we really appreciate everything that you've done to help us out. And I finally want to thank my cousins Arturo and Katie because they introduced us to Gracias a la Vida.
But there's one more piece before Gracias a la Vida.
Okay, so we will.
So pause that thought.
La